Good morning, everyone. How are you? How was last night? Wasn't that great? So today, I'm very passionate about this topic. I like to talk to you about how we can predict quality before it's measured. If I move my head here, then the microphone doesn't work. So today, we are flooded with data, right? We have more data than ever. Factories are having a lot of sensors. They are collecting massive amount of data. But still, we wait hours and sometimes days to get use of that data, to get insight from that data. And this is creating a lot of problems. This is creating delayed quality feedbacks. This is creating a scrap, rework, delayed root cause analysis. And as a result of all this, we have a reactive system in play in our factories, right? So let's look at a very complex dynamic, advanced semiconductor manufacturing. This is where my heart belongs to, but to show you the complexity of the devices we make in semiconductor, that image on the right-hand side, this is an Intel 4 CMOS technology featuring their advanced FinFET transistor. And you see that involves so many layers, right? And if any issue, any crack, any problem in the layers down happens, that propagates through the device. And that causes a major defect problem. To make these sophisticated devices of many layers, there are many process steps involved. Just on the right-hand side, you see some of it. This is overly simplified. It's a lot more steps than this. But normally we go through deposition, lithography. Deposition is adding material. Lithography is patterning that material, we call it photoresist. It's a chemical layer. And then we etch that material. We remove the extra material we want to remove and pattern. And then we have a metrology step. We measure the thickness of the layer we removed or we created. Then we do implantation, another metrology step. We measure the doping and make sure that's the level we are aiming for. Then we clean and we repeat the same process over and over, 80 to 120 times for a typical device. These process steps, depending on the complexity of the device, can be 500 to 1,000. And we use over 90 mask layers during this process. So you can imagine it's not once or twice measurement. It's so many measurements involved in making one device. And because this is repeated so many times, now metrology turns to a major bottleneck in our manufacturing processes. So this is causing a lot of measurement delays because when you're doing inline processes, they often run pretty fast. But metrology takes minutes and sometimes hours to do, depending on the queue and the tool availability and all that. This is creating a delayed feedback loop in our processes, in our manufacturing. On top of that, these metrology tools are very costly and very bulky. They are very intensive in terms of the space they require, and therefore it makes it more, limited. The number of these tools are more limited, and it slows down the process even further. We also have sampling constraints. Not every wafer and die is measured, right? There are hundreds of dies on a single wafer. It's not possible to measure every single one of them. So decisions are only relying on partial visibility. And that is increasing the risk of missing defects in our devices. And all of this is happening after the process. So this is very reactive. If you find any problem in your measurement, you lost the chance to already correct it, right? It's after the fact. So this limits our process control and our optimization hugely. So all of this working together is slowing our yield, increasing our scrap, late detection of defects in manufacturing, and reduces our efficiency overall. So you see, this is creating a huge problem already. And what if these measurements are bottleneck and they are very time consuming and costly, what if we don't have to do it actually? What if we can do something we call virtual metrology, which is collecting all this data we already have from our sensors, and now add the historic quality measurement to that data, add your recipe parameters to the data, and feed it to a machine learning model. And that model, what it does is learning all the patterns that you have in your processes and comes up with prediction of the quality after that process step while the process is happening. So you have the liberty to make changes if you see something is drifting or some quality issue is emerging. And then you can make, you can take action. You can use that insight and go to your manufacturing fab and then make changes based on that. So now that we know the concept, let's see how it plays, on a factory level. So we have this batch of wafers that goes through a process equipment. In a traditional way, after that process step is over, we do sampling. We take a couple of those wafers, not all of them, just a few of them, and then we do a few measurements on selected locations on the wafer to do the quality, inspection and do the metrology step. At the same time, when we are doing the process step, we are collecting all the sensor information. So the new approach would be, okay, use that sensor information, use the information you have from the past, all the measurements of quality from the past, combine them, and now, live, you have a prediction of not a selected number of wafers, all of them, for every single die. This is revolutionary. This is changing the quality drastically. And not only you're having pass-fail over your control limits, you see all the drifts and you have the vision of all the history. So you are creating a system that now is lower cost because you are doing lower amount of measurement, less metrology is done. It's very high and efficient. It does optimize your sampling while you are doing the process. And as a result, you get better quality because now you have vision while the thing is happening and you can make changes. So let's see this in action in our actual use case. So this is what we did. So this is a fabrication process that we worked with. As the wafer comes, it goes through the position, then it goes through lithography, it gets patterned, and then when it goes to the etching process tool, that etching process tool has 4 different chambers. We collect all that sensor information, then that's stripped, cleaned, and the position is done after the fact. But after that etching process, we have a metrology step that we measure all the thicknesses on 13 different locations on a 300 millimeter wafer. So this is setting of the experiment. Have this in mind. We collected all that sensor information. We got all the different recipes that we have in play while we are doing the etching and all the metrics that we had from the past. And now before feeding it to our models, when you're collecting sensor information, it's millions of data points, right? You cannot just dump it to your model. We did a functional principal component analysis to learn the features and the behavior of that sensor and get what is important from that sensor and then put it into model rather than just dumping all the raw data. And that drastically improves your model performance. So on the right-hand side, you see the water temperature. You see the warmer color is representing over the average. The colder color is representing below the average behavior of the sensor. And the same for the pressure. And we did that for every single sensor measurement. So we have a principal component measurement of each sensor. And then we put all these into our models. And then we were thinking, okay, what approach do we get? So we can look at this problem from many different angles, right? We can look at this problem from the spatial variation angle, meaning that how the chambers are different if we compare them when we go through that process and we measure the thickness after the particular chamber. So we did that analysis. So we have 4 chambers, 13 different points that we are measuring, so 52 points total prediction tasks, and we have over 500 process parameters fed to the program. This can be, thousands. So in this particular case, that was a number. And then we trained all these models based on the FPCA analysis of the sensors, all the recipe parameters, and we came up with prediction of the behavior of all these chambers. So this approach gave us a tool-to-tool focus and visibility, so we could compare how one tool compares to the other one, and how the spatial patterns are changing from one to the other. So it has a very high accuracy potential, but you have more models to manage. So it depends on the use case you're doing. That can be a desired approach if you're monitoring chamber performance, you are trying to detect tool drift and anomalies, or you are trying to improve your run-to-run efficiency and consistency. This is the approach to take. But another way you can look at this problem is from the process standpoint. What's the variation in your processes? Meaning that you have different recipes, how they change your thickness measurement, and what's the behavior of each of them. And so now we have 2 recipes, 13 measurements, so we have 26 prediction points and the same number of inputs. So the complexity and the number of models, decrease. Now it's easier to manage, it's more scalable. So this way, you can look at, okay, what's the consistency of the processes that I have in play? Do I want to change anything, or I want to keep this in place? So fewer models, better generalization. Depending on the approach, you can have both in play, or you can pick one. And now that we know what approach we want to pick, now we define how we want to structure these models. So we use many tools in VIA that gave us the liberty of having so many models playing at the same time and running in parallel really fast. And we added open source, we added SAS code, we added all the models that are pre-packaged in VIA. And we built this pipeline that is very efficient, runs at the same time as our process, and gives us prediction of the thickness that's very high and accurate. It has a lot of diversity because now you can include anything you want to, and then it is continuous improvement. So as the new models are coming, you can add it to your pipeline. And this is built for being scalable, and it's very resilient to all the changes in the data or your process steps. And when we do have this in play, all these processes, after it's run and finished, the champion model is picked, all the prediction is pushed into executable dashboard that is giving you all the thickness production for different products. So the vertical axis here is the predicted thickness, and the horizontal one is the actual thickness. If everything was perfect, it would be this diagonal line, and you see our predictions are very tightly close to that diagonal line. So we could define 93% of the variation in the data. So our R-squared, the score is 0.93, which is a very good number, and our error was pretty low, 0.042. So we were very happy with this outcome. And we put this model in place for so many new data, new processes, new recipes, and monitor the performance over time, and we saw very consistent results coming out of it. So we have something high accuracy, low error, consistent performance over time, and it is very reliable prediction. So as a result, when you put all these together, so my question is, if this thing is very efficient and is already improving the quality and the performance of every fab, why all of us not doing it today, right? You all have the data. Why you don't build that virtual eye on your line? So, and this example was semiconductor because it's so complex. I wanted you to see this in action for something that has a lot of complexity. But that can apply to any vertical, any manufacturing. Let's think about, snack manufacturing. As the food is being produced, they look at the color and the moisture of their product, right? The way it is done today, which is actually this is a real use case that we are working on. They take the samples and they do this sample measurement like half an hour, 1 hour after the whole product is finished. making a package. So what happens if those measurements are not within the ranges they are desired? They just threw the whole thing out. It's a lot of waste for the company, right? So what if you could predict those, color, moisture, different flavor factors that they are, monitoring? What if you could predict it before you measure? And what if you would see drifts and, potential problems, you could turn your oven up. You could do all these corrections in line to avoid all that scrap. It is possible today. We have done it for something so much more complex. So it's just a matter of trust and change management. So I hope this presentation a little bit give you an idea to maybe try it on your data. Don't believe my words, but see it for yourself and give it a chance. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Nasim. Do we have any questions for our speaker this morning?
Dr. Rahimi, thank you for your presentation.
Sure.
Incredible work. I love it. My name is Khaled. I work for manufacturing that we build actually ovens, and we depend on like human beings more than machines. How can I use prediction that's, when the process is, I would say 40% depends on human, and there's a human error in it. There is any chance we can use this?
Well, you have to have, sensor readings. So all the process steps that you are making, you have to have some sensor reading, and then you have to have history of your quality measurement with similar sensor readings. And then all that together enables us to build those models. But that being said, that doesn't mean you cannot do it if you don't have all this today. That means that's your starting point to build this data set that is required to do it. So you can add, these sensors, you can collect this data and, collect it over a couple of months, and then we can look into building these models. And as you add this data, the accuracy of these models get better and better.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you very much for the presentation. So in the examples where this is being done with customers, to what extent are they reducing the number of physical metrology checks and replacing them with the virtual?
So we are talking about a major foundry business here. So even 1% reduction in their metrology is billions, right? So I don't have the exact number, but we did this calculation with the customer in the beginning. And how the percentage is depending on their level of, comfort. So that's depending on them. And they go with the performance of the model, and the performance is good, they are satisfied, so they put it on one tool, and then they observe it over time, and then they put it on a couple of other tools. So a lot of barrier is change management. So we went through that through a year or two with this customer, and that barrier is now very low. So they are very open to the idea and implementing it, but it takes time, right? But the difference is huge, especially talking about semiconductor. These metrology tools are often the same size of a room, like they are huge, they are so expensive, so sophisticated. Even, a small percentage of reduction in that is really a big win.
Other questions?
This example is pretty high volume. What about high mix, low volume? What's the minimum quantity to be able to calculate the models?
It's hard to put a number on it. The lower the quantity is, the lower the accuracy, right? So depending on what accuracy you're comfortable with. I honestly cannot put a number to it, so we need to look at the quality, because it's not just the volume, it's also the quality of the data you have. So we have to put everything in action and see what we have to start with. But I always tell my customers, there's a starting point. If you don't have enough data, that's okay. We have synthetic data to augment that. We can go that approach. We can buy data from similar manufacturers. There are so many open doors. Just, we can try different approaches. But that adds to the complexity when you have low volume and more products. So that makes the problem a bit more complex.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for all of you. I know 9 a.m. after that party. I appreciate you being here.